I've recently got into the Guinness Book of Records for the longest ever interview with Peter Fitzsimons. 24 hours, non-stop, the longest interview ever attempted in the world.
We're not going for a world record tonight, I hope.
No, but I did fill in the first 6 or 7 hours by asking Peter the single question, what was your greatest sporting moment? So I thought I might start off with that question for you and see if you can answer it with more brevity and, could I say, humility than Peter. The thing that sits in your mind as the moment where everything went perfectly.
Yeah, it's hard to limit it to one.
That was Peter's problem.
But it was more, I think, I do view myself very lucky that I was involved in an era of Australian cricket that was so strong. You know, every time you walked on the field, you looked beside you, there was guys like Steve Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Matty Hayden, Adam Gilchrist, Shane Warne. You know, those guys filled you with a lot of confidence. And I knew that I would do whatever it took not to let my teammates down. I knew they were feeling the same way. But I think just to be part of that team is something very special. And if I miss anything to do with cricket these days, it's not playing. I'm very happily retired. It's that side of it, sort of that the mateship, the camaraderie you sort of gain from being around these guys for such a long time. That's what I miss.
There are a couple of perfect moments, though, where you did things like predict this point at which you'd get them out, and it actually worked. Voodoo cricket.
Yeah, occasionally you set a batsman up and then you set him up for one particular ball and you come in and bowl it and it works, you know, perfectly. They nick it or they get bowled, and you know, that is very rewarding. 9 times out, or 99 times out of 100, it's more about building pressure up and then they succumb to the pressure and get themselves out. But occasionally something special happens like that. You know, even the day I scored 61 was a nice moment. Another day in Adelaide where Steve Waugh said I was out of position. I said I was tempting Michael Vaughan, the then England captain, to play the shot. And I ran around and just dived and somehow landed in my hands and took a decent catch. So there's a few of those special moments, definitely.
There's a lot of psychology in it, though, isn't there? That's what you're saying.
Well, there is. I always say skill will take you so far. And you know, that's probably not only with sport, but with a lot of things. Skill will take you so far, attitude will get you the rest of the way. And it's that attitude, how you carry yourself, your self-belief, those sort of things which will take you a little bit further. So it is, life's a mental game at the best of times, but playing sport at a top level is very much that way. It's a physical, but also a mental challenge.
When you're at the other end, beginning your run-up, do you make eye contact with the batsman?
No, I sort of didn't give the batsman much credit or much thought, really. He was just the guy there standing with a bat at the other end. So it was more, you know, I had it locked in at the top of my mark. I knew exactly what ball I wanted to bowl. I'd sort of probably visualised it, gone through my head, seen it either carry through to Adam Gilchrist or take the edge or whatever it is. And then as soon as I'd start running in, to switch off that little voice in your head, which really doesn't work in your favour too often, I used to sing a song to myself. So whatever I was listening to that day, I'd be running in, just singing a song. And it was a way to help me relax. And then I knew exactly what ball I wanted to bowl and then bowl it. And the only time I made eye contact is when you're halfway down the wicket and you know, he played a missed or he played a shot, and then you sort of make a bit of eye contact, making, you know, as aggressively as possible. I don't do it very well off the field. It must have been something when I was on the field. Then you make a bit of eye contact. Occasionally you ask him how he's going and then turn around and come back to your mark.
Before you came to Sydney, you must have put together this bowling technique. How did that come about? How did you figure out what you could do?
I don't know. It's just I always loved cricket. And I just, from playing in the backyard or down around the sheds at home from where I grew up, and we used to play cricket, my cousin and I and my brother, at grandparents' backyard. There was always in the backyard, there was a worn patch in the grass where we played cricket all the time. So it was just from there. I didn't model myself on anyone, and I didn't have any coaching. The first coaching I ever had was when I went to the cricket academy, and it was by a guy called Dennis Lilly. So you may have heard of him. He was my hero growing up. So I was 22 years of age. So you know, I was probably beyond help really. So it was more about refinement of action, and I was lucky that I had a a very good action, a very stress-free action, and I think that held me in good stead. So it was just something that developed naturally.
And then very quickly into the team, as you say, at this great time.
Yeah, played my first Test match in Perth back in November '93. Seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? And I flew over there. I'd only played a handful of games for New South Wales, and I met half the team for the first time, and it was amazing that first Test match. And I took my first wicket. Unfortunately, I got out first ball, so we won't go there.
You've
just
got
yet.
a duck record, don't you?
Well, depends.
How you define
For
it.
Australia, apparently, yeah. Shane Warne and I were similar. We were going along on the same amount of ducks. I got one in Melbourne, which was unlucky because it wasn't out. And then in Sydney, Shane Warne nicked one early, caught behind for a 0, which would have meant he finished on the same amount of ducks as I did. And the umpire gave it not out. So I feel a little bit ripped off there. But yeah, I have a few of those records. Some good, some bad.
Some good, some bad. I love it when you talk about these things. You can remember individual balls and that it came off the right side of the bat, and it did. Is your mind full of these memories of particular, almost exactly recorded cricket moments?
Oh, there's a lot of things in there. And back when I was playing, my motivation was taking wickets. So that was what drove me and motivated me. And when I had probably 360, 370 wickets, I could sit there and write them all down in order and picture them and go through how I got the batsman out. So
could you still do, if I gave you a date and said you got this guy out, could you tell me that the ball went from the left and went to the right?
Well, I'm getting a bit rusty these days, but there's a certain amount of tours that I can remember, and sort of how many wickets I've got each tour, each test, which innings, and then go from there. So I'm getting a bit long in the tooth now. The memory's not quite what it used to be.
You had great longevity as a player, much longer than lots of other people, and yet by the end of it, your body hurts, doesn't it?
No.
No?
No, I was actually one of the lucky ones. I had a very good action, I think, very stress-free action. I worked as hard as I could off the field. I came back from the West Indies in '95 and I was injured. I torn my intercostal muscle, which is as fast bowlers we call them, our grunt muscle. So it's a muscle that runs down the side where you get all your power from. And so I'd torn that and I weighed 77 kilos. Which is 25 kilos less than I am now. So there was nothing of me. And I thought, if I'm going to succeed or have longevity in this game, I'm going to have to do something differently. And so I found a trainer who was classed, as hard as anyone out there. And I worked with him, and he punished me. And I used to look forward to the cricket starting so I could have a break. And I think it was that attitude that held me in good stead. So it was good action, worked hard. And absolutely loved it. And now I've been retired for 5.5 years. You wonder where the time goes, but I get up in the morning, jump out of bed, no aches and pains, no niggles. Whereas a lot of other fast bowlers, their backs gone, their knees are gone. Even Craig McDermott 4 years ago had a hip replacement. So it's a very stress-free action. But I think those things held me in good stead. And,
so then the retirement happened, I think, 2006 from Test, and then 2007 from the one day. What's going through your mind then? How do you make that decision to step away from it?
Yeah, I always wondered if I'd retire at the right time or just drag on and go a little bit too long. But all the, I guess, important decisions I've ever made in my life, I've just woken up and known. And it was no different this way. We just played England in the first test of the Ashes series 2006-2007. Up in Brisbane. I bowled pretty well. I took 6 wickets in the first innings, so things were going well. We had a 2-day break between the Brisbane and the Adelaide test. And I came home. I was still very motivated, what I wanted to achieve in the rest of my career and how I was going to go about it. And then I went to sleep one night, woke up the next morning, and that wasn't important to me anymore. And I guess that was the moment I knew it was time to hang the boots up. And we played the rest of the Ashes series. We beat England 5-0. And I said I would retire at the end of the World Cup, which was coming up in the West Indies in sort of that early mid 2007. So went over to the West Indies. The Australian team played some incredible cricket there. We weren't challenged at all. And I just couldn't wait for that tour to finish. And so that told me it was time to hang the boots up. But the funny thing in that was I got player of the tournament in the World Cup, and I couldn't wait for it to finish. So, you know, it was a perfect way to finish, perfect way to hang the boots up. And, you know, like I said, 5.5 years later, sitting here, and I don't miss playing at all.
But what do you think happened overnight, that night where you said, you say everything changed?
I don't know. Yeah, just those things weren't important anymore. You know, we spent a lot of time away from home. You know, a tour overseas is at least 2 months. You know, there was a lot of things happening in my personal life and 2 young children. So, and I wanted to spend more time at home. And my daughter Holly, who's here tonight, sitting in the crowd, she's 11, and son James is 12, going on 13. He's at a mate's place. So, you know, I just wanted to spend more time at home.
And so, to that extent, I suppose Jane was important in what she was going through at that point in that decision.
Well, yeah, you know, it's you know, my late wife Jane was diagnosed with breast cancer back in '97 and went through 11 years, pretty tough stuff. But you know, it all, yeah, I was playing cricket, so to me that was what I loved to do. You know, going through what we went through off the field was real life, and you know, it takes a toll on you. But then you also look at the positives. I always try to look at a positive from any situation. And mentioned earlier that the McGrath Foundation was set up in sort of 2002, and to think where the McGrath Foundation has grown now is absolutely incredible. So, you know, Jane passed away in 2008, and that was a tough time for myself and my family. But then the McGrath Foundation was established then and had 2 very clear objectives. One, to raise awareness of breast cancer, especially in younger women, but also to place breast care nurses in communities right across Australia. So that was our objective. When Jane passed away, we had 4 nurses employed, and here we are 4.5 years later, we have 78, soon to be 83 nurses, and that's absolutely incredible. I think the support we've got from people right across Australia is absolutely amazing.
Tell us about the genesis of the idea. Did she suggest it? What were you doing? Where did it kind of come from?
We were approached to write a book on our experience of going through breast cancer by a publishing house, Random House, and said, give a certain amount of proceeds to a charity or foundation of our choice. And, you know, felt it would be a good opportunity to actually, you know, make use of that money and see it make a difference. And so that was where the idea was born. And, you know, where it's grown to now, to see the Sydney Test match, to see both teams turn up in pink and see the support of the sponsors, the cricket ground, and just everyone turn up in pink is absolutely amazing. It just blows me away. And to think that in the last 4 years, the nurses have supported over 16,000 Australian families, and once a year all the nurses meet and we go and we chat with them, and to see them all in one room makes it very real. But to hear numbers like 16,000 families supported is absolutely incredible.
And you talked really early on when you were talking about cricket about the feeling of support for your team and not wanting to let your team down, that being the motivation. And of course, they've been great, haven't they, the rest of the team, about supporting McGrath Foundation?
Well, they have, and you know, there's a lot of similarities between what made the team successful and what made the foundation successful. So, you know, we both had a great plan, a great team around it. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all about enjoying life and having fun, and that's what it's about. And I think that's why we played so well as a team. That's a big thing with the McGrath Foundation, is whatever we do, it's, you know, we should enjoy it, and that's what life's about. And yeah, so
well, you do that. You do achieve that. It's got a kind of I don't know if it's just the colour, but it's got this feeling of life about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and especially when you're getting blokes wearing pink all the time. You know, actually, I don't have any pink on at the moment, so it's. I've been telling people that pink's a new black, and only real men can wear pink. And you know, I'm not sure if I'm trying to convince myself or everyone else out there, but just to see the support, it just blows me away. Okay,
now whilst we're talking about colours, art gallery.
Yeah.
Tell us about the art gallery.
So I guess just a little bit where life is at the moment. You know, I've been lucky enough to meet someone else, and Sarah, my wife, who's here tonight. you know, she's had a big impact on my life and my family over the last little while since we met. And the way I look at that is, I think, you know, Sarah's brought hope back into my life and to my family's life. And you know, Holly and James love her to bits, and just to see how they are with her just really makes me realise I've made the right decision. But you know, things have been tough, but you know, life goes on, and life's meant to be lived. And so we've got that attitude of getting out there and really having a go. And you know, one of Sarah's passions has always been the art world, and believe it or not, I've always enjoyed my art as well. So back earlier this year, May this year, we opened an art gallery in Chippendale called Macklemoy Art Gallery. It's in Chippen Street, Chippendale, so pop in and say hello. Sarah runs that with her best friend Christia Moises, who's our curator. Christia's been a curator for the last 12 years in major art galleries in Miami and around the world. So it's Sarah and Christia grew up in Miami, and Sarah's sort of American Italian who knows absolutely nothing about cricket. So it's a good combination. But so to move into that art world is quite amazing. And I guess I'm a bit of an installer. They put me to work there, but it's really been an amazing sort of what'd you say, 5 or 6 months, 7, 8 months, whatever it is. And it's
so you're handy with the hanging, are you? Because they've
well,
got the Francis Bacon ready to go in downstairs if you want to help.
So there might be, you know, there's life after cricket. So, but it's a contemporary art gallery. So we've got international artists, and we've also got local artists, and you know, it has been a whole new world for me.
What's your taste? Okay, how many paintings have we got here? 1, 2, 3. Which is your favourite out of those 3, and tell me why? This is Art Appreciation with Glenn McGrath.
Put me on. Well, art is a real individual thing, I think, and everyone likes different things.
So what do you like? What sort of things?
I always grew up with I like the landscapes and, you know, your Australian artists, but I'm starting to get more into the contemporary side of things, and some of our artists, you know, are different, and it's amazing what people can see in the same picture. We've got a young Australian artist out of who's just showing for the first time. He's got an art piece in our current exhibition, and I go up to it, and it's to me, it looks quite happy. You know, it's winter. To me, it's winter. The trees don't have any leaves on. It's white, but I see, because we've started skiing, so I guess I probably relate it back to that. And then I have a look at the name. It's, you know, No God, No Love, and it's and I hear someone else saying, "Oh, you can really see the depression," and I'm thinking, it's quite amazing just that people can see different things in the same piece of artwork. So it's been good fun.
Does he hang them the right way up though?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a carpentry background, so I'm out there measuring it perfectly, and Sarah comes over and still says that's got to go an inch to the right or an inch to the left.
It's all wrong.
No, it's perfect there.
It's all wrong. Tell me about India. You played with the Delhi. They've got a great name. I've now forgotten
Daredevils.
it. The Daredevils. The Delhi Daredevils. What's it like suddenly being part of the Indian cricket scene?
Well, yeah, it's a whole different world in India. You know, Australia is very much a sport-loving nation, but over here you can still be a normal person. In India, they love cricket. They've got a passion. They're fanatical about cricket. Cricket and movie stars are held in the same sort of high regard. So when you go to India, you can't go for a walk along the street because you have thousands of people following you. So it's quite it's a bit surreal, and sort of I've actually taken up a position over there. I've taken over from Dennis Lilly as director of coaching for the McGrath Pace Foundation. So I'll be heading to India 3 times a year, 2 weeks at a time. My wife Sarah can't wait to get to India. I think it's whereas as a cricketer, you're a bit of a prisoner in your own hotel.
People are very excited. A lot of people are very excited by the culture there, but you're saying it's almost difficult to participate in it.
No, I love it over there because it's such a contrast to everything we have in this country. You know, the conditions, the climate, the food, you name it. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it, and the people are. They're very non-aggressive people, but they just love cricket, absolutely love it. So to play in front of a crowd of 110,000 people, where there's probably only seating for about 40,000 in that stadium, and the noise is unbearable, and especially when Sachin Tendulkar's batting well. The noise is nearly deafening, and you're fielding on the fence and a high ball goes up and you're underneath it. And I tell you, you can't hear a single thing. And if you drop that ball, you hear every single one of those 110,000 people. But they just have an absolute passion for the game.
Now, we're nearly finished and you still haven't answered my first question. I want one beautifully recollected sporting moment in which the ball behaved perfectly. One moment, in detail.
So bowling or?
I guess so.
Because I hit
or
a six.
Catch.
I hit a six when I played, so the ball behaved pretty well. That catch in Adelaide when I ran and dived, and the ball actually behaved very well because I dived with both hands. It hit my right hand and ended up in my left hand. The other way, left into my right. But I don't know. It's hard to really picture one.
One ball.
Yeah, there's probably one ball. To get your first Test wicket's always very special. And then,
tell me that one.
3/4 way through my career, I set myself a minimum of 500 Test wickets. To be able to take that at Lords was something pretty special. But
who are you up against? Tell me about that one then.
When was that?
The Lords one.
It's against England. Marcus Trescott. He edged it to Justin Langer to bring up the 500th, and to have my parents in the crowd and the kids there, my family there too, was pretty amazing. But the one wicket that really stands out was in Barbados in 1995, and it was the first time I come up against Brian Lara, and I ran in and bowled this ball, and it sort of pitched around middle leg and just went off away from him off the wicket, and he was good enough to nick it, and Ian Healy caught it. And it was the first time I got Brian Lara out, and I went on to take 5 wickets in that innings. And that, I guess, as a bowler, it's like a batsman scoring 100, and you feel like you've contributed to the team, and you really feel part of it. And that was the first time I really felt like I contributed to the team. And I went on, I got Brian Lara out another 14 times in Test cricket after that. But we went out on a boat that night called the Jolly Roger, which is a little like a pirate ship that goes out from Barbados. And I remember talking to Brian Lara for the first time that night too. And he came up to me and said, well played. And he said, that ball you bowled would not have got anyone else out in world cricket. And I said, why is that? And he said, because I'm in such good form, I was good enough to nick it. No one else would have got anywhere near it. So that, I guess, is a little bit what Brian's like. He's fairly confident most of the time, but that ball is one that really stands out, and I think that Test match and that moment was when I cemented my place in the team, and the rest is history.
We all want to congratulate you on your career, and especially congratulate you on the McGrath Foundation. Thank you very much, Glenn McGrath.